What's up, guys? Welcome back to FishOfHex. My name is Travis. Today we'll be doing my weekly rambling video, and if you guys are new to this series, this is where I do some one-on-one time and give you guys kind of an update on what's going on in my life, personal and within the hobby, and yeah, just kind of chit-chat for a little bit. Now, in this video, I do have a list of probably 9 or so things that I want to talk about, so I am going to run through them relatively quickly. Now, before we get started, I just want to address my last rambling video. I think a lot of you guys took it the wrong way, and by all means, I was not attacking any individual channels, or I wasn't attacking individual people. I don't believe at any point in time did I mention any names in that video, but there are a few channels out there that actually took it and ran with it pretty hard, and be you, do what you got to do, I guess. But by all means, I was only stating my opinion and how I felt the community was and things that I like and disliked. And yeah, that's who I am. That's me to the core. If you guys know me from personal life, or even if you've been here for a long time, if I have something to say, I'm going to say it. And if you don't like it, that's kind of your problem, not really mine at that point. And it is what it is. I got a lot of flack and hate on that, and particularly in the comment section, not so much about me, but what you guys were saying about other YouTube channels. Now, I went ahead and deleted probably 50% of the comments that came in attacking other YouTube channels. It was brutal. I know that there's a lot of keyboard ninjas out there, and some of the things you guys say are absolutely unacceptable. And that's what my aunt said to me when I was growing up is when I got in trouble, it was unacceptable. And what you guys were saying was ridiculously bad. So with that being said, I went ahead and I removed a lot of comments, and I still have to go through and remove more, because depending on what type of content I have going on or what's going on in my channel, sometimes I filter comments, sometimes I don't. And if I knew that that was going to get so much backlash, I would have filtered the comments from the beginning. So I've yet to sit down and go through, but I think I got the majority of them. And just guys, I can't control what you say, but understand that people have lives outside of here, and what you say sometimes impacts, kind of how they feel. And and one thing some of us YouTubers have to understand is if you're in the community, or you're putting yourself out there like, I do, or other people do in the community, you have to understand that people are going to say bad things about you. I think once a month, I have somebody tell me that I should die and my family should be murdered. These are the things that people say. You can't really take it personal. I know in the beginning of my whole adventure here on YouTube, I took things like that personal. And it's just a growing experience, and you understand that people are just talking out their ass, and it just is what it is. But yeah, so guys, it was brutal, and yeah, I don't really know what to say other than the fact that I really would appreciate if you guys didn't try to destroy other YouTube channels in my comment section. So that's about it on that. Now, with that out of the way, let's go to move on to the list of topics for this video. So the first thing I want to mention is the alkalinity spike that I got on the 300 after I did that big water change. Now, if you guys saw that video I posted yesterday, I cleaned off all that coralline algae off the back of the glass. And basically, I don't really have a lot of coral in that tank at the moment. So really the majority of the demand on the tank or the calcium reactor is coming from all that coralline algae. And basically what happened is after I removed all that off the back wall, over the next couple days, my DKH went from 9.5 to 10.5, which in the grand scheme isn't really that big of a deal. I actually went ahead and just dialed down the calcium reactor a little bit just to kind of make up for that. And it dropped back down, and now it's just kind of a balancing act to get it back to 9.5 and keeping it stable. But if you guys are starting out and you have a lot of coralline algae and not so much SPS growth at the moment, or LPS growth, just keep an eye on your alkalinity, particularly after cleaning a lot of coralline algae off the back glass, because you might get that little spike. And I can only imagine if I didn't test my alkalinity within a couple days, it would have continued. So just keep that in mind when you're doing that kind of stuff. Now, speaking of the 300 gallon, I have a new DIY project that I think you guys are going to like, and that is a calc reactor. And it's going to be a 2 or 3 part series video. The first one's going to be how I'm making the calc reactor and what I'm making out of it, all that stuff. The second one's going to be the setup on the tank, also through the Apex and the programming between the ATO pumps and all that kind of stuff you guys will see, as well as a kind of a third part, basically an update on how I balance the tank and everything between the calcium reactor and the calc reactor. And this is really cool because I've always wanted to make one of these. Not only that, but there really isn't a full in-depth guide out there on the internet that I can find. And granted, I haven't looked as hard as I probably could have, but a guide out there on how to make one step by step, as well as balancing it with a calcium reactor, as well as kind of seeing how it goes over time. And that's what this little mini series is going to be on the calc reactor. And it's going to turn out hopefully good. Now, I'm using basically a white extra media reactor that I had, and I went ahead and bought some red, white, and blue piping and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to make it kind of fancier so it kind of fits the theme of my current reactors. By all means, they're not going to look like the Geo reactor, but it is going to kind of fit that color theme. And what it's going to be is I'm going to have a separate pump in my ATO, which will be controlled by the apex, and it will pump fresh ATO water down into the reactor, which will go to the bottom, and then of course go back up into a separate section on my Geo sump, which will basically take care of that so it doesn't come together with the calcium reactor and the refugium. And basically I'm going to have a MaxiJet with a ball valve on it so I can control the flow on the side of the pump, or better yet, side of the reactor. And it will also have a drain valve and all that stuff so I can refill the reactor with media instead of removing it and all that stuff from the system. So it's going to have some features that I don't see on many commercial reactors or calc reactors, but it's also going to have my own little touch. So that video, I get the parts, the rest of the parts in the mail tomorrow, which is Wednesday. And yeah, basically I'm going to build it this week, and I should have the first part out next week, and then hopefully have the second part out the following day, and then the third part will be out in a few weeks after, kind of giving you guys an update on how it worked out. So pretty excited, and yeah, hopefully it turns out well. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about here is the LPS in the middle of my 300-gallon. You guys saw when I did the water change how it just fell on its side. It was flopping around. Well, I actually, I guess maybe a week ago or so, I don't know. My videos are like 3 or 4 weeks behind schedule besides these ones. These are my most current videos. But what I did is I went ahead and I actually put a big ceramic disc on the bottom of that LPS because it just kept falling over all the time. It's been doing that for about the last year, and with all the flow in the 300, it just kind of spins there in the middle, which is interesting to see. It's definitely stressful for the coral. And anyways, I went ahead and put a disc on there, glued it, now it stays in place. And you guys keep asking me what the name of that coral is. I have no idea, but it is an LPS. My local fish store doesn't even know, and I can't find it on the web. Basically, I got it from a friend a few years ago. It was just kind of a leftover coral from a breakdown of a system, and I took it in. It was probably 1/3 its size. It doesn't grow very fast, but it's definitely cool to look at night with all its sweeper tentacles and that kind of stuff. But either way, it's now stable in the middle of that tank with that disc. All right, so moving down the list here, my black and white Ocellaris clown is currently pregnant. She's in quarantine, and yeah, so I'm in a little bit of a dilemma here. Now, that pair is set to go into the 300-gallon on the 25th. Now, the downside is if I put her in the 300-gallon while she's pregnant, she's going to become very territorial right off the bat. So that might cause unnecessary stress and aggression. She might possibly kill my other clownfish in that tank. So that's just not a good way to introduce new clowns with other clowns. Now, granted, the tank is 8 foot long, but, you know, worst case scenario, they come together and they don't like each other, and then I end up back down to 2 clownfish. So I just don't want that to happen. Now, the other side of things is I could keep her in the quarantine tank, but she might not lay the eggs and could potentially die because of it. Now, I don't think she's going to lay the eggs because there's copper in that system, and she's still during her, you know, in her treatment phase. So I really, I can't take the copper off at the moment just because I don't want to take a chance of her, you know, getting sick again, which will in turn kill her, or, you know, kill the babies or whatever negative side effects might come from that. I just don't want that to happen in the quarantine tank. So I want to keep her at her half a dose of copper. And mention that I didn't do the full dose because she was kind of chubby when she came in, but I wanted to make sure she had a little bit of copper in the system just to make sure it took care of any kind of parasites and stuff like that without causing unnecessary stress. So yeah, I'm stuck between leaving her in there and potentially not laying eggs and dying, or putting her in the 300 and then have her be a bully or killing my other clownfish. So I'm leaning toward putting her in the 300 just in kind of taking that chance with her, you know, finding an area with her partner there, and then it being a big tank, there won't be the extra stress. But what would you guys do? Basically, what would you do if you were in that dilemma? I'd be interested to see what you guys think. And speaking of quarantine fish, the next thing on the list here are the 3 tangs that will be going into the 300 on the 25th. And I just want to say right off the bat that this quarantine period seems a lot longer than any other quarantine period I ever had. Even the 13 weeks with my Blue Hippo tang didn't seem nearly as long as the last 2 weeks with these 3 tangs. I think it's because I really want to put these 3 in that new tank and just have them in there, particularly the blue, powder blue there. I really want him to be in that 300-gallon because he's just swimming laps in this 20-gallon long like a madman, and he's ready to come out, and I just really want him to be in a bigger tank. So I think that's what it is. The quarantine period just seems very long, and granted, there has never been a sign of illness on either one of those 3 fish. Nothing, not a speck of ick, no internal or external. They're all eating from at least day 1 or day 2 of getting them. but I still need to wait the full 30 days, and it just really sucks. So yeah, it's just kind of something that's been on my mind. I come downstairs every day, feed them. I'm just like, oh, another day, another day, another day, and soon you guys will be in your big home. So yeah, that's about it for the quarantine fish. Now, moving on to the 30-gallon, you guys know that I made that transition to Polyp Lab refresh a few weeks ago, and it's doing quite well. The water on the tank is definitely much clearer. There's getting some coral growth back, some coloration is coming back. I did lose one of my Acropora. Well, it kind of RTN'd a little bit. I'm probably just going to snip it off just because I know it's not going to recover from that. And but I don't think that was a direct result of that program. I think it was because of everything that was going on with the tank, between the water changes, taking it off the Triton method, then having the issues with the alkalinity to keep it stable, and then just everything. It just kind of came together. I lost one acro, and out of the 50 some on coral in that tank, losing one acro or a half an acro is really not a big deal. I'll basically replace it with something else and kind of see how the tank goes on in the future. Now, I did add 2 baby clownfish to this tank. They both went through quarantine, and they're both a rescue type of fish. They both came from separate homes. And basically, the black one was getting bullied really bad in quarantine, and he was going to die if he didn't come out. And then kind of the same situation with this black, basically the orange and white Ocellaris clown. Kind of the same situation, for the exception that all his brothers basically died during quarantine. And even though he was getting beaten up, he seemed to be the one that kind of survived the whole process. And yeah, so they're both in there. They're pretty happy. The Anthias is kind of in there somewhere. He doesn't come out very often. I think he has a swim bladder issue. When he does come out, he's kind of floating a little bit, so I think that's why he stays in the rock. And I mean, he did a whole 30 plus days in quarantine with no issues, and he just kind of maybe developed this over time. But we'll see what happens to him here in the future. All right, so I have 2 more things I want to talk about in this week's rambling video. The first one is thank you to everybody for pointing out copyright material, or basically finding people who are taking my content. There are people that are downloading my videos directly from my channel, then re-uploading the entire video to another channel and basically getting money off of it. It's interesting that people actually do that stuff, but I just want to say thank you to everybody who finds this content and sends it to me, and that way I can put in the notice and get it taken down. And it's usually once or twice a month I'll get a comment with a link to it. So if you guys see something like that, definitely let me know. I didn't know that was a thing until probably 6 months ago when I started getting those messages. So kudos to you guys for looking out. I really do appreciate it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is Reefapalooza prep. Yeah, that's coming up relatively soon. I think a month and a week or so from now. And yeah, it's pretty stressful in the fact that we got a lot of stuff to get done. But I feel good so far. I just need to get coral in. Everything else is taken care of. I'm going to be running 2 tanks with 4 XR15s with the Reef Link. I've got separate payment methods, so I can accept all types of payments between like the chip cards and the swipes and all sorts of stuff. Everything you can imagine I got, so I can accept the payments. Also getting ready and getting frag plugs and t-shirts and keeping enough coral in stock to have it for Reefapalooza. That is the hardest thing that I can do. My coral sells, I want to say, relatively quickly, but it definitely isn't on the site very long. And unfortunately, I just can't keep a lot of stuff in stock, and that's kind of where I'm at. So what I'm going to do is put in a couple big orders between now and Reefapalooza, put a certain amount of it online, and definitely keep some to the side for Reefapalooza, because the last thing I want to do is show up with 2 tanks and have just boring old stuff in it that it just didn't sell online. I don't want to be like that, so I will see what I can get, but I do appreciate all the support. And yeah. Oh, one more thing. Actually, this is, one more thing. I will be looking to do my first Reef Tank for Veterans build in July. We're looking to go out to Texas and rebuild a tank out there, and nothing's finalized yet, but that's the plan. We're going to fly out there, myself and my new cameraman, which you guys already know who he is, but we'll wait for that surprise here when we get closer to the date. But we're looking to fly out to Texas, spend a weekend out there, rebuild this guy's entire system, drill it, new sump, skimmer, all that kind of stuff, and basically rebuild the veteran's tank and get him going in the right direction. So that's kind of be my plan for the first build. Now, there's some other stuff in the works with tanks being built and things that I want to do on my own here. So there's a lot of different things that I want to do for that program. But again, it takes time, money, and effort, and all those things are happening as we go slowly through the year. So other than that, guys, that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, go ahead and give it a thumbs down, and I'll see you in a couple days with another video. All right, later.